Ready?
Yes.
All right, I'll call the public hearing, open the public hearing, and we'll start with pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Now, that was like the best flag holder, right?
It's our color guard.
You have to sing the end here.
All right, I have the commission members introduce themselves. So Penny, can you lead off with that?
Sure. Penny Hessler, Joan Garrett Bradley,
Golfer.
Alice Hutchinson,
Tim Beagle.
Good evening, John Lennon. Nick Beatty, Council to the Charter Commission.
All right, thank you. So I'm the chair of the Charter Commission Convention, and we have about 15 months left to wrap this up. I just want to say that the charter provides a framework and operating structure for the town's governance and with formal procedures which incorporate operating efficiencies but maintain transparency and fairness. Any proposed changes to our charter will be subject to a vote of the town of Bethel. So voters will have a chance at the general election to do that. The charter revisions must comply with state law and meet certain timelines for adoption. The 2019 Bethel Charter revision were diligently proposing charter revisions and didn't proceed to a vote due to a missing deadline. And this commission will consider the recommendations of the 2019 Charter Revision Commission as well as the current Board of Selectmen's proposals and suggestions that we received tonight and at future regular meetings of this commission. The purpose of this initial public hearing is for the commission to listen to you and listen to your ideas for changes to Bethel's charter before we begin deliberations. And before we listen to the next speaker, once you've spoken, before we listen to the next speaker, there may be a question from one of the board members for a clarification of something you said. But if you've been clear, probably won't be any questions, and we'll move on to the next speaker. That doesn't mean we're disinterested in what you said. We're looking again to listen and not engage in the conversation. As far as future meetings, we will be meeting on August 26th, September 4th, October 9th, November 13th, and December 11th. And those will be in meeting room A or the GP room. So we'll be set there. But that's our schedule for the balance of the year. Anyway, again, I'd like to open the meeting, and anyone would like to speak? Yes, that nigger. Oh, and Mary wanted everyone who speaks to sign in on a sheet in front, so she has. So when you want address, so name and address. Oh, that's right. Before we do this, Mary needs to read the call.
The Town of Bethel, Connecticut, notice of public hearing for changes and revisions to the Bethel Town Charter. Pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 7-191, notice is hereby given that the Charter Revision Commission for the Town of Bethel will hold a public hearing on August 14th, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. in the General Purpose Room in the C.J. Virgin Municipal Center, 1 School Street, Bethel, Connecticut, for the purpose of hearing comments from the public regarding changes and revisions to the Bethel Town Charter. Dated at Bethel, Connecticut, August 2nd, 2024. Charter Revision Committee, Town of Bethel, Timothy Beagle, John Bradley, John Lennon, Patrick Roberts, Alice Hutchinson, Penny Kessler, and Karen Black.
Good evening, everyone. Matt Knickerbocker, 10 Colonial Drive. I'm going to speak to one item in particular that's on the first Board of Selectmen's list, and then I'm going to add one for your consideration. First of all, let me say that I'm very happy to see all of the items from the last Charter Commission that timed out because of the pandemic and we were unable to vote. So it's good to considering that. I want to speak very much in favor of one of these in particular, which is making the Director of Public Utilities a permanent position in the town charter. And the reason this is such an important thing is about 30 or 35 years ago, Bethel had a Director of Public Utilities. That was a parallel position to the Director of Public Works. And we have had for many years now, since about 1879, a very active utility department. So both water and sewer, water encompasses up to half of the Bethel population. The sewer district covers about 67%. It generates millions of dollars per year in revenue, and it costs millions of dollars a year to maintain the functional systems. What happened 35 years ago was the Director of Public Utilities at that time retired, and rather than replace the position, the folks who were in office at that time elected to give the responsibilities of the utilities manager to the Director of Public Works. And it was a very, very bad decision. And I'll tell you why. The reason the decision was made, I believe, is because the utility department is an enterprise fund. It's not voted on as part of the town budget. Essentially, Bethel runs a nonprofit utility department as a business, and it's off the books. It has its own books, I should say. So by combining the position, the town that year was able to take 50% of the director's salary for public works and move it over to the enterprise. So it made the town budget look better. But fast forward 20 years later, the system was failing. The town was being sanctioned by the Department of Public Health for poor water quality. Our water mains were leaking. The valves didn't work. We hadn't flushed the system in years because the pumps and wells had not been refurbished for many years. And that was because the Director of Public Works, Director of Utilities are not the same position. It's like saying if you have a heart condition and you don't really want to pay your cardiologist, you'll just go to your podiatrist instead. They are two separate disciplines. So several years ago, we hired an outstanding person, named Tom Villa, who's done a great job of resurrecting the system. We're about 9 years into the 20-year refurbishment program for the water department. We are off the hook with Department of Public Health. We need to have talent in that area who knows how to run public utility, both water and sewer. So I speak very, very strongly in favor of this. This is something that needs to happen to prevent people from making a bad decision in the future. So that's what I want to speak on. The new item that I am asking you to consider, and I'm going to make you all sit down because this was a big ask. You should, if you are looking at adjusting the charter in the light of adopting best practices, you should consider moving the Board of Selectmen to a 5-member board. If you look at the responsibility that the Board of Selectmen has, they are the legal representative of the legislative body, not the Board of Ed, not the Board of Finance, not the Board of the Planning and Zoning Board, the Board of Selectmen, and you can find in state law through and through that in town meeting form of government, the legislative body is the voters, except when there's a Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen then carries that responsibility. The problem with the 3-member board is it invites non-transparency. The 3 members, every single vote is an automatic 2/3 majority. The 2 members of the Board of Selectmen can go behind closed doors and illegally caucus. Then they can come out and they can vote any way they want to. I have now been asked to, through my work with CCN, which I'm still a board member on, I've been asked to consult with a number of other towns on their charters. And I have witnessed that towns that have a 5-member board have more dynamic debates, more openness, more ideas to consider, and more engagement from the public. So we did put that on a charter revision back in 2010. It failed by about 50 votes, but a number of towns have gone that way. More and more towns are doing it. I don't know of a single town that's doing a charter commission this year that doesn't have it on there to consider the list to consider. Again, there were objections I heard, like, well, if you put more people on the board, they'll make more laws, and we don't need more laws. It's a ridiculous argument. It's about openness and transparency and engagement with the community. And I've seen firsthand that a 5-member board serves their community far better than a 3-member board. And it's not, and that's not a criticism of the 3 gentlemen that are in our board right now. But this is a best practice that I think that our so yes. It's my comment, so.
There was what you know about forms of government. You find that keeping the town meeting form of government is a logical first step to go from 3 to 5? For
Yes.
us.
Yeah. In fact, the towns that have gone to a 5-member board are not considering income changes to the best of my knowledge. But they're not looking at it as a stepping stone to changing the form of government to mayor council or to manager council. They're just saying, you know, we've got a 9-member board of education. We've got 7 people on the board of finance. We have all this responsibility that falls on the board of selectmen, and there's only 3 people. It really does not lend itself to transparency. So it wasn't on the list. I know it's a difficult thing to consider, but you've got 15 months, so I hope you will give it some serious time.
I have a question.
Yes, we'll start again. Patty.
No, guys, I have a question. The three-member board invites a lack of transparency. Oh, sure. Could you clarify?
Yeah, what I mean by that is, under state law, as all of our board members know, members of a political party on the board can caucus. You know, they can even do it in the middle of the meeting. You know, let's say the Board of Finance is debating a very serious issue, and the members of either party, the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, want to go. They want to talk behind closed doors. They can do that. They can ask the chairman for a recess, and they can go down the hall, find a private place, and they can talk among their party. Now, nobody else can join them. So, like, even a member of their party can't join it. So, that let's say there's 5 members of the board of finance, those 5 members can ask for a recess, and they can go down the hall. They can do that, but then they have to come back in, and the debate will still continue. You know, they might have talked about the position they want to take. That is all 100% legal. And then there are many other votes that require 2/3 majority, like a vote to go to executive session, a vote to end debate, call a question, requires a 2/3 majority. By definition, a 3-member board of selectmen, every single vote is a 2/3 majority. And the 2 selectmen could call the roll. Not that this happens very often, that it has happened on occasion in some towns and in our history. But the 2 members could say, wait, we're going to take a recess. We're going to go in to the selectman's office to talk, and then they come out, and then they can settle whatever issue. It hasn't happened here a lot because we have had people who really embrace the idea of transparency, and they don't want to do things like that. But the other advantages that go along with the increased transparency of the 5-member board is you have more voices at the table. The community is better represented with more ideas and more dynamic discussion between them. And initially I didn't think it would make that much difference in the towns that I've personally witnessed. It's very different, and it's more open and it's more dynamic. And you can get along with it. If they have to, it's just like any other board where there's a big number of people. They have to find a way to be civil with one another and to accomplish their given job. Jonah, point of clarification.
Yes, do you see the correlation between the population of the town and the number of selectmen?
No. The town I'm working for right now, I went to a 5-member board some years ago. Their several thousand smaller than us. So, and the town of Chester, village of Chester, which is way up toward Rhode Island, very small village. I think their population is 5,000. I consulted with them at their invitation, and they're in the process of putting up their very first charter in the history. They were a non-charter town, and the charter proposal that they wrote for their community after a year-long study was to start with a 5-member board for all the reasons that I've said. So I don't see a correlation.
My first question is point of clarification. The director of public utility, the director of public utilities, and the director of public works, they both have very distinct areas of responsibility that are of different interests.
Yes.
But do they overlap?
No.
No.
No, as a matter of fact, the director of the DPW, director of public works, is a town of Bethel employee. You'll find his or her salary and the town budget, all that. The director of public utilities is in the reports to the Public Utilities Commission, and that salary is 100% paid by the user fees of the water and sewer departments. And yeah, I'm guessing because I wasn't here 35 years ago when they made their decision to not rehire a utilities director. But I think the thinking was there was a lack of understanding, and they thought, well, public works and pipes and stuff, they can do that. It's fixing the leaks in the pipes is just as much of a job. It's capital planning, it's interface with environmental, it's interfacing with public health, both locally and at the state federal level. It's a separate discipline altogether.
Because he works central area. Does he consider that it's the last meeting?
No, he's completely on the public utilities.
But it is globally funded through that.
No.
Through the rate.
Through the regulator, yes. It's an important distinction because no taxpayers don't fund it. All of the employees, including part of the salaries of the tax collector's office that does the billing, is all funded through user fees through the Public Utilities Commission. It's not through the tax.
And one more point of clarification. As with the system we have now, you have three member selected. In case where you have minority representation, one of them. So you're saying that one party is lockstep in the thought or thought. So automatically, the 3-member commission, they're always the majority vote.
Right.
So so in that case, you don't have any diversity in the election. And it reduces debate dialogue.
That's my point. Exactly. Which, in my opinion, is not good for the community. And long before I was first selectman, way back even before I was on the board of selectmen, there were times when the minority selectman was basically just ignored it. And I know Allison is who I'm referring to, but was not invited into the party. I mean, to the
You could really be excluded from the conversation if the other two are lockstep together.
that's correct. And a 5-member board prevents that to a large degree from happening. So again, it's a best practice that I would recommend.
Okay, and I've got a question for you too. So with your suggestion for going to a 5-person board, it's like, are you suggesting staggered terms for them? And would you suggest eliminating the provision in our charter where we're losing the first selected candidate that's thrown into the next for selected?
In the boards that I've studied, they've gone, well, first of all, yes, initially they do a staggered term so that somebody is being reelected every 2 years. I will say that I don't know of a 5-member board of selectmen that's not also for your term for those individuals. That's probably something you should take a look at too, for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's still standard. So there's still an election every other year, and there's still somebody on, at least two people from the board of selectmen who are, those two seats will be open. So 1 year would be 3 seats open, 2 years later, it would be 2 seats open, and 3 and 2, so.
And then the current practice in the Iowa charter tradition that the losing first selectman gets thrown into the mix for the other suggests doing that aspect.
No, yeah. I don't think you need to consider making real complicated changes, just everything else stays the same.
Any other questions?
I don't.
Clarifications? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? And then just sign in there. And actually, if the next person wants to speak, kind of queue up and maybe get in that seat. Sign in, be on deck.
Just sign up on the way out.
Got a question. Says under the
Okay,
board,
just state your name again.
Frank Isle, 500 Green Drive. Board of Finance shall provide for an annual audit of the books and accounts, the town required by the Connecticut General Statute. What are the Connecticut General Statutes as far as an audit?
Okay. Any help us with that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
We should find out.
Okay, you can take that into consideration.
Because I was under the impression years ago that the only person who called for a forensic audit in the town with a Woodland style government was a comptroller, C-O-N-T. We have a comptroller, and to my knowledge, he cannot call for a forensic audit. Why do we have a comptroller? In theory, it doesn't really say any words about a forensic audit. And I would like to have a forensic audit every X amount of years. Because we're not dealing nickels and dimes anymore, we're dealing big money. And it should be no more than like a 3-year span when we have a total forensic audit. We find out where our money's being spent, how it's being spent, and what it's being spent on. And we have to find out from our lawyer what the Connecticut General Statutes requirements are. And if we've been following, if we haven't been following. You're gonna get that information?
We'll discuss it with the committee.
All right, and to your knowledge, what is the authority of calling a forensic audit as it is right now in the town of Bethel? I'm just surprised. I mean, a forensic audit should be right on one of the things on top of our list. We're dealing with all this money and really don't know where it's going. The Board of Finance can call for just a general audit of the numbers, but that's, doesn't tell where you're spending money at. So I'm saying we should have a forensic audit every 3 years. We should have, if it's a controller that has to be in the state of Connecticut, we should have a controller running this town, not a comptroller. That's it.
Any clarifications? Okay, thank you, Frank. Like to speak next?
Hello, my name is Gabriela Hernandez. I live at 114 Nola Drive. I think to echo the transparency, I think it's important for the language and the town charter to reflect as much transparency as possible in all boards, commissions, departments, and put that information out to the public in more than one way. Definitely rethinking the notion of having to post public notice on specific newspaper sites. I think it's an additional cost to the town, but doesn't necessarily invite an increase of involvement in town government. So it's something to consider when you review these things. Also, I would like to advocate for the Sustainable Bethel Commission to become permanent part of the boards and commissions part of the charter. I think that there's a lot of initiatives and projects and guidelines in the plan of development for the town. And I think the Sustainable Bethel Commission would be a great resource for those initiatives and mandates to be met. So I strongly encourage you to consider including that in the town charter. I think that's it for now. So thank you.
A quick question.
Yes.
What's the name of the commission?
Sustainable Bethel Commission.
Sustainable.
To add, we recently submitted the application for the town of Bethel for the bronze certification with Sustainable Connecticut. It's something that was started years back by Matt, and we're really proud that we accomplished that goal. It took close to 3 years. It took a lot of conversation and connecting with people from all the different departments and organizations around town. And Bethel's doing a lot of great sustainable practices and initiatives and programs all over. So to have some sort of town body where those things can come together and help residents have access to those resources can only benefit the quality of life. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to comment?
Brad Cole, One Fairchild Drive. I need to ask you folks to ask for a clarification of something Mr. Knickerbocker said, because I'm not quite clear on it. What does a 2/3 majority represent on a 5-person board? Is that 3 or is it 4? Because it's a fraction.
Now that reference said the current 3-person.
No, I understand, but if you went to a 5-person, board, how many folks qualify as a 2/3 vote? Because 2/3 of 5 is 3 and a third. So does it go to 4 or does it just run down to 3? I just was curious about that. I haven't come across that. And I
Yeah,
apologize, I got your.
there's not a requirement that have a 2/3 majority vote. What I'm saying is because there's 3 people.
I'm saying for instances where 2/3 might be full. It's confusing.
There's either unanimous.
Yep.
Or there's 2/3.
Or it's just majority. Okay. Got it. Okay, so let's talk about the 4-year term concept for the Board of Selectmen. Anybody who's just gotten their August electric bill understands what absolutely not having accountability means, especially since that same board just added another $80 million to our public benefits billing starting in September. There's no recourse on this. I've been chasing for 2 weeks trying to get the sealed bids for our electric rates, which are given to Pura and then sealed. So they then tell us what the rate's going to be, and we have to believe that that's all done on the board because it's all sealed away. The notion of having a staggered 4-year Board of Selectmen scares the heck out of me, because those folks are completely accountable for all of the appointed people in town government. Not having that board accountable every 2 years for decisions that folks that report to them make is frightening. I am absolutely opposed to that. I think it goes absolutely against the whole notion of accountability. And I can tell you from my experiences working with folks in the town, we need a lot of accountability across the board. So that's my 2 cents on the whole 4-year thing. In terms of the feedback on that. Okay. I would also ask you to consider adding something into the charter that clearly delineates what's supposed to happen if a public official in the town is found by a state entity to have violated state law. We have a department head, I'm not going to name names, but we have a department head who was found to have violated 2 state laws in their official capacity. And nothing has been done except ask the Ethics Commission to look at it, which they declined. So I would ask you folks to consider putting something in the charter that spells out the process for holding folks who've been found on a state commission or a state board or a court to have violated state law for how that situation is handled. Because I have to say, I think the current process has a few holes. It could definitely be changed. So that's
Can I ask a clarification?
my 2 cents.
Yes. What about federal law?
Absolutely. If they're found to have violated federal law, we ought to have at least a process for somebody to review that and decide if they should still be in their function. Thank you. That's the point that I forgot.
Are you referring to violated regulation, or are you specifically saying violated criminal law?
Either one. And in the instance that I'm referring to, technically both were done. I think either way.
From the point of considering what you're saying, I don't think every infraction of the law requires discussion. There are certainly things that merit hearing,
Sure.
transparency, and accountability of all, because the objective discipline and change behavior.
Right.
So, okay, I think I understand what you're saying. Your position is, regardless of whether the regulation or violation of town policy,
Hmm.
then all of those things could have a very specific spelled out process of what you're saying.
Yeah, and you can set the threshold for where you want that. I mean, if there's certain things that you, as a commissioner, feel don't warrant raising to that, absolutely. But I think you need to be setting some of the guidelines of that and threshold for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, follow-up.
Yes.
Follow-up question.
Yes.
Do you feel that the Board of Ethics fulfills that?
No, no, I don't. I think the Board of Ethics needs some serious repair.
So at a minimum, your suggestion for clarification is that certainly anything that rises to a violation of criminal law,
Mhm.
your position is that there should be a spelled out process for resolution, for discussing, coming to resolution, whether discipline involved, retraining, again, purpose of discipline, change behavior.
Yeah.
And if penalty need to be imposed, so be it, let it happen with the commission. So at one point, you're very specific to criminal law.
Mhm.
The other point, are you very specific on any other violation below it?
I think that there's certain civil regulations that, in order for people to maintain total faith in the functioning of our town government, should be looked at if they're violated. I would ask you folks to do some research to figure out what that threshold is, and whatever's below it's below it, but whatever meets that, there should be a process, whatever it is, for that to be dealt with, because it's been kind of catch and catch here.
Okay, I just have one clarification there.
Yes.
So you said you're against the 4-year staggered term for a 5-person board of select.
Mhm.
There are really 2 things there. There's 4-year term and 5-person board. Are you against both?
Yeah, I'm being both. I think they're both bad for accountability. We just heard some stuff about transparency. I think in 2024, people more than ever need to feel that they have accountability from folks in government. They've got ability for redress if something has gone awry. And it doesn't mean you fire people or you arrest them or whatever. Sometimes, to the point maybe you just retrain them. But whatever it is, there needs to be a process so that the citizens of the community feel like it's being addressed. Because I can tell you, I can think of several instances where folks don't feel the things that maybe have been addressed as they felt the job.
I have a question, follow-up question.
Yes.
What, can you clarify why a five-person board of selectmen
Mhm.
means less transparency than the three-person?
If it's staggered is really where I feel that it would be less transparent.
Can you, because,
So let's say that the Board of Selectmen appoints some folks to carry out some functions, they're not being done. Problems are silly. They're abusing their position, whatever, and it's not being addressed. Right now, the voters have the option every 2 years to say to the Board of Selectmen, you're not doing your job overseeing this, we want new people. If you stagger it, we completely and forever lose the ability to hold that board accountable to the voters of the community. You can hold individuals on a rotating basis, but that means it's going to take 4 years for you to deal with some problems that may have occurred 4 years prior. I think that's a problem. I find great solace in that every 2 years, we can take a look at how the town's been run. We can take a look at the board that is absolutely entrusted with making sure those things function. And we can determine if we want those folks to stay in office or not. I'm not talking about party, I'm just talking about function.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to? Comment on the proposed charter revisions?
If no one else wants to speak, can I
Yes.
ask a final question?
Yes.
Okay, through the chair, the recommendation to have a procedure in place for people who break regulation, criminal, whatever. It was the speaker referring to employees or other elected officials. Thanks.
Not referring to elected officials, although maybe that's something else for you folks to consider. No, it's for employees and appointed officials.
Yeah, and I'll just add a comment too that the Ethics Commission's code is not part of the charter revision. So there is a separate ethics code that perhaps needs adjusting. It's pretty narrow. So, does anyone else have any comments? There will be at least one more public hearing towards the end of the session. And of course, the public will have public input at every one of our meetings. At the beginning, and of course, you can stay for the whole meeting if you like. But we'll have public input. So this is not the only opportunity to provide comment on the charter revision. Yes. Would sign.
Catherine Hebert, 13 Nature Trail. Do you have a process for outreach in the community? How are you going to reach other, aside from your public hearings? How else are you going to reach the public for input?
Through the first selectman's office, through social media posts, through the newspaper. It's the ethics commission. I don't know.
No.
Charter revision.
This one,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I got the ethics part.
I'm sorry. The charter revision commission will be holding these hearings. They're all open. Minutes will be published. They're all available, and hopefully people will engage in this. However, charter revision can be pretty boring to watch. And it's really hard to get them excited about a lot of things, especially if you look at the proposals from 2019. There's a lot of technical corrections, but I would say the most important thing about charter revision is that if there's an element that was a good idea 2 years ago, it should still be a good idea now, and it should still be a good idea 2 years from now, when there may be another administration. So if you have a revision where someone says, oh, well, I don't like the current administration, so we should never do that. And then 2 years, 4 years later, when you'll know the charter revision, oh, that's a great idea. It's just, it provides a framework and orderly, a way to orderly conduct the governance.
Yeah, I get that, but a lot of people don't. The charter is really important to the governance of how the town is governed. So perhaps part of your outreach needs to be educational. Because a lot of people don't understand what a charter is. They see this as some kind of thing in the cloud. So just a suggestion. And then one real quick question, how often so you said 2019, how often, is there like a mandate, how often you have to change?
Every 4 years.
Or 3, okay.
It's actually
Five. Okay, that's what I got. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I gotta ask you a question.
Sure.
On previous amendments to this charter, where would you be able to find that information?
The town clerk's office.
Where she'll have the,
I think the last adopted charter revision was 2014.
yeah, we're going back to other ones, back in 78.
Right.
She'll have it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, this is my fifth charter revision commission. And three of them were approved.
Will it show the amendments, what people voted to show it?
Yes. And when you look through the charter, it also kind of makes notations as to when certain paragraphs were changed around. That's all. Okay. If that's it, I'll public hearing to a close. Thank you for coming and for your comments.
Thank you.